Hi there and welcome to the show. Today my name is Michael Zimanji, standing in for Alex Chamwada, and here is what we have in store for you. She left the country for further studies and ended up founding a non-profit organization.
For me, home is not a place. For me, home is where I have people that I share values with.
Rose Maruru shares her 15-year experience of working in Dakar, Senegal. Also on the show,
Thank you very much.
how Safaricom Sacco has gone beyond the borders through digital services.
I live right now in the United Kingdom. I'm an IT professional, but I keep tabs with my investments in Kenya through the Safaricom Sacco.
And in Kenya to the world, the company sharing a taste of Kenya with the international community. Now, in 1985, Rose Maruru had just graduated from the University of Nairobi and was ready to take over the job market by storm. Well, unfortunately, due to the regime of the time, there was a change in employment policy, meaning jobs were not readily available and the government was no longer providing employment opportunities for its citizens. This forced her to look beyond the borders, and that is how she ended up daring abroad. And over 30 years later, Rose Maruru is not only thriving, but creating employment opportunities for other people around the globe. Here is her journey.
For me, home is not a place. For me, home is not a geography. It's more a state of the mind and who's around me.
Rose Maruru is the co-founder of Epic Africa, a non-profit organization based in Dakar, Senegal. A globetrotter at heart, Maruru has lived in the US, Yemen, Egypt and even the Gambia, but chose to fully settle in Senegal in 2008. Interestingly, daring abroad was never part of Maruru's plans, but upon graduating in 1985 with a degree in literature from the University of Nairobi, things changed.
We graduated during probably one of the hardest decades post-independence Kenya, when government was really pulling back. It was also a time when ethnicity, or tribalism as we refer to it, was really like gaining currency. So it was 4 years of teaching. I taught in a couple of private schools. I taught at Liza Hill Academy. I taught at Riara Primary. I didn't really want to be a teacher. That's not what my interest was. And so I was trying to figure out what to do. And there were very few options in Kenya in terms of going back to school, which is something I would have loved to do. So the options were like going to the School of Journalism, or going to do a diploma in teaching at Kenyatta University. Getting into a master's program was very difficult. Unless you had an upper second or a first class degree, you couldn't do it. So there were really no options except to get out of the country. And so at a certain point, I started to really seriously think, how do I live? So for me, living Kenya was more of a push rather than that I was attracted to, going outside. But there were really very, very few to zero options.
This pursuit of knowledge is what led her to Senegal in the first place. This was back in 1997 when she joined IDEP for a master's degree program. But little did she know that this action marked the beginning of her love affair with the beautiful West African nation known as the Land of Teranga, which roughly translates to good hospitality.
One of the really beautiful things about living in Senegal is there's never any fear being an outsider. You never fear, oh, I can't go. The people really don't. People ask you where you're from because they're curious. It's not so that they can discriminate against you or have stereotypes about it. It's just that they're curious, like, hey, where are you from? And particularly when you're not from here, people are like, oh my God, I want to know about your country. So there's a curiosity and an openness that I find here that's really wonderful. So one is never hesitant to go to a place, to any part of the country, to any establishment, which is very, very refreshing. People are hospitable. When you go to someone's house, people will always offer you water. People will always offer you something. People don't eat alone. In fact, it's very, very frowned upon. You share. And even the children are brought up to know that you share. And so I used to be fascinated, like, we would go to a place like my husband's relatives or other friends, and, you're served drinks, and I'd notice nobody drinks the whole glass because there's always a kid that you pass it on to.
Even with all this hospitality, Maruru still had a rough transition.
The first year that I was back, I was just settling. I didn't have a job, but I was looking and also distressing from the stresses of 8 years living in the US, having a full-time job and a family. I don't know how people do it. They do it because you don't think about it, but it's really, really, really difficult without any family support. With very little support, actually. So coming back to Senegal was just a pleasure. So I took some time to distress and look for a job.
Upon settling, Maruru joined Trust Africa, a foundation focused on addressing challenges facing the African continent while championing democracy.
My dream used to be, I want to work for that organization because it really resonated with me, because it was about expressing African agency and that we can do stuff, Yes, we need other people, we need to collaborate with other people, but we don't need people to be doing and telling us what to do. If you want something really badly, and you don't just sit there and wait for it to come, but actually sometimes you get it. And so I did end up getting a job there as a director for operations.
This was Maruru's stepping stone into the world of non-profit.
In my experience, we see a lot of African-led organizations or initiatives that are started by brilliant people, brilliant ideas, but somehow the institution never really grows, And many of these institutions actually die with the founder. I wanted the challenge of how do you help to build and institutionalize something so that it can outlive the founders and grow and flourish.
After a 5-year tenure at Trust Africa, Maruru decided it was time to start her own outfit, Epic Africa, that seeks to increase visibility and financing to civil society organizations in the continent.
There's very limited knowledge about African non-profits. If you think of how many publications, for example, there are on business intelligence, and business leaders being featured and what business is doing, creating jobs and all of that. If you even look at, the concern right now with COVID, is the impact on the economy, and oh my God, we have to save all these companies, but very little attention or caring or understanding of this sector, the non-profit sector, which some people refer to as the third sector. And yet we know that it's these sort of civil society formations that are often at the forefront of even the COVID crisis. These are the people down at the community level who are the first responders before even government comes. They're the ones who respond to disasters, building collapses before the government services come. It's the neighbors and the local, the church and others that are there. And yet this work and this contribution is not very well recognized or understood by ourselves and others. And so we thought that, having better information and better data on who's who, what are they doing, where are they, with what impact, how are they funded, what challenges do they face, and that sort of providing intelligence on that sector.
Through understanding this data, Epic Africa has been able to raise the standards, performance, accountability and transparency of the African civil society organizations, helping them be more effective in their work.
Africans always give. We are very philanthropic. We love each other. We help our sisters, our brothers, our cousins, and everybody. But the kind of giving that we are promoting is also giving beyond, family and community, to give to, for example, to organizations that are advocating for systemic changes that would actually lessen the burden on me as an individual to keep sending money for the doctor. You know, if we could have a policy where there's universal coverage in health, then I don't have to keep sending money home to my mother so that she can go see the doctor, you know, because she'd be in an insurance, you know, a scheme. Or I wouldn't have to take my child to a private school because the government school is actually performing well. So, but I think as Africans, we haven't yet started to give at that level, but you know, it's coming.
In addition to this, Epic Africa has also enhanced philanthropy in the region by organizing an award ceremony since 2018, known as the African Civil Society Organization Excellence Awards.
And this was a way to highlight this issue and to highlight this sector, but also to provide an incentive for non-profits to share their data so that they could be assessed and we could see, you know, who's modeling good performance across different dimensions.
Through her travels and non-profit, the daughter of Kino has been able to be a force for good in every place she's been. This, she says, has made her into a better human being.
I always was open-minded, but perhaps it has even made me more open-minded and to see people first as people, not as racial or tribal or profession or economic, you know, class.
This is the lesson she hopes to share with her countrymen. And as we conclude, here's her advice regarding daring abroad.
Go because you're curious, go because you know, you think there are better opportunities, you're going to look for opportunities. But don't go thinking that, you know, it's heaven. It's difficult, and again, depending on how you're going, where you're going. So like if you're going to school, it's a different experience than, you know, if you're going to work. If you're going to work for Google in San Francisco, it's a different experience than if you're migrating illegally and will be cleaning an airport. So it really depends on what are you going for, what are your objectives? I guess that's what it is.
What an inspiring story from Senegal. Time now for our Kenya to the World segment, and this time round we are in Njoro, Nakuru County, where an amazing company is sharing the taste of the Kenyan goodness with the world. Sauces, jams, syrups, pastes and vegetables. These are just some of the products that Njoro Canning Factory exports to various parts of the continent. Located in Nakuru County, some 180 kilometers from the capital, Njoro Canning Factory has been involved in the food manufacturing business since 1978.
In peak season, we normally produce around 10 to 15 tons of tomato paste a day. Kideri, we normally produce, depending on the order that we get, but we can produce around 25,000 cans of 420 grams. We have beans in tomato sauce, which we can go to 15,000 per day.
When it comes to exports, Comesa is the company's biggest market.
We produce for Sudan, we produce for Uganda, we produce for Rwanda, and also Tanzania. But we normally produce for the UN, United Nations market.
This access to international markets enables the company to have a positive impact in the economy by providing employment to over 500 men and women and supporting over 5,000 farmers who provide raw material for the company. And with over 40 years of manufacturing and exporting prowess, Njoro Canning Factory Limited is an example of what Kenya has to offer the world. And that's Kenya to the world. Now that story from Nakuru County ushers us into the break. But when we return, we will tell you how SACCOs like Safaricom SACCO are busy connecting the Kenyan diaspora with their homeland.
World Remit, we understand what the journey is about, how it can sometimes take a little distance to bring us a little closer together. With ways to save more when you send more, World Remit is here for you, so you can be there for them.
Welcome back to the show. Now, over the years, SACCOs have proved an important vehicle when it comes to connecting the Kenyan diaspora with their motherland. I'm of course talking about SACCOs like the Safaricom SACCO, and Alex Chamwada has more on this.
1, 2, 3. Let's celebrate, guys.
Safaricom SACCO has made great inroads into the diaspora, and as the SACCO celebrates its 20th anniversary, members living abroad have joined in to share their experiences with the SACCO. Jeremiah Ochieng, who lives in the UK, says the SACCO provides a key link with his motherland.
I'm an IT professional, but I keep tabs with my investments in Kenya through the Safaricom SACCO. This is because largely I have grown investment-wise through the SACCO. All the investments that I've made in Kenya, and even when I was in Kenya, all the fees that I would pay for my children, I would process them through the SACCO. At the moment, even insurance, if I want to buy insurance, I would buy it through the SACCO. It makes it so easy doing all these things when you are in the diaspora, and everything is at your fingertips. You could do them any time of the day without bothering about the time zones of Kenya.
Jeremiah is among the 2,000 diaspora members of the SACCO out of a total membership of over 13,000.
The biggest transformation that I've seen is that looking back at the point where we had to use paper and you had to physically go to the SACCO office with your application form and sign, and you had to move around looking for guarantors and signing those forms, and then you would be given a check that you'd had to physically take to the bank. And to now, where everything you can do online. You can actually do a full application online, and everything will be approved online. And when it's approved, your money is then debited into your account automatically. And then now from there, you can manage that money on your own and you don't having to go to the bank to take your checks to the bank.
Jeremiah is not only a founder member of the SACCO, but also a former chairman. He served as chairman from 2008 to 2014, and later he was elected a board member while living in London.
I was able to follow the AGM using electronic media. Now, this has even improved further, and the last AGM was actually virtual, completely virtual. It was only the board of directors who are in front of the cameras in a group. Everybody else was following the AGM wherever they were in the whole world. And they were also able to vote electronically. So really a huge leap in development of the SACCO.
From London, let us now shift our attention to the US. And in Dallas, there is Shem Maruru, an evaluator. He has been a member of the Safaricom SACCO since 2010.
I'm an appraiser, or you can call it an evaluator. My job is to determine how much the house is worthy, the home values. I would say it's part of the real estate industry. The Safaricom SACCO, the good thing I like about them, is I've been able to take a loan. I did buy some few lands. I got some lands in Nakuru, and that's where I used the money to put down, get the money, because that way I know that my interest is low, and that is through my SACCO. So they give you what they call a developmental loan. I know that whenever I need something, that I can be able to look back to the SACCO, and then I can be able to count on them.
What made you go to the US, and when was this?
What made me come to US? When I was in Kenya, I wanted to be a CPA. That was my dream. but I find my journey over when I came here as a student in the year 1996. I came through Minnesota, and then through that I went to school. I did some accounting, and then after that I did some computer. And then later on, when I did through Minnesota, that's when I started working as an appraiser. I did an appraisal for being independent for some time. And then after that, I thought I need to expand my knowledge more. Then when I got a chance to be able to work with corporate, I wanted to know how the corporate industries work. So maybe in the near future, if I feel more comfortable again, if I want to, I can go now. I've got my own independent appraisal. I've got a corporate appraisal. So now I'm planning maybe in the future, have my own company here in Texas, put out to be independent, help other Kenyans so that they can be able to work under me so that they can understand about this, what thing they call appraisal.
Back to Nairobi, and during Safaricom Sacco's 20th anniversary event held on 30th July 2021, the management announced that members across the world can now enjoy 3% interest on corner loan from 5% with an increased limit of 100,000 Kenya shillings. On Pamoja loan, members will get 0.08% interest payable in 12 months up from 6 months.
We have also waived all the charges on PesaLink transactions for a period of 20 days. Our SACCO has integrated with all the 5 major banks in Kenya today: NCBA, Cooperative, Kenya Commercial Bank. We also have an account with Central Bank, and you're able to move money from our SACCO to any of these major banks digitally, and we've increased the limit. So you do not have to come to the SACCO like we used to do with the draw cash, then take it to this particular place, or queue to write to get a banker's check. You're able to move this money digitally from the platform.
Safaricom Sacco's asset base is now about 7 billion Kenya shillings. The Sacco's members were originally Safaricom PLC employees, but now its membership is open.
Our membership is countrywide. We are spread in all parts of the country, and we have even members in the diaspora. Across the world, we have our members in the US, in the UK, the Middle East.
The Chief Corporate Affairs Officer of Safaricom PLC, Stephen Chege, who is a vibrant member of the SACCO, commended the institution for withstanding the test of cybercrime, which is a primary focus of the organization.
Just as Safaricom has been a leader in establishing and maintaining best practice in the corporate scene, we're very proud that the Safaricom SACCO has also led the pack in terms of product portfolio, as well as embracing digital platforms that are secure and easy to use. By adopting a bouquet of technology services like security and cloud services, the Safaricom SACCO remains the only major SACCO that has withstood the test of cybercrime.
The Principal Secretary for ICT, Jerome Ochieng, represented Chief Guest, ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru.
Safaricom SACCO has been a key player in the sector by bringing together not only Safaricom staff, but technology industry players who form the core membership of the SACCO.
The management and board emphasizes that the SACCO's aim is to keep growing in membership and assets and to continue impacting positively on livelihoods in Kenya and beyond the borders.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex, for that informative piece. And with that, we have come to the end of the show. Thank you for tuning in. Let's do this again next week, same time, same place.
We understand what the journey is about, how it can sometimes take a little distance to bring us a little closer together. With ways to save more when you send more, World Remit is here for you, so you can be there for them.